Today we're diving into one of the largest and most impressive bases in Foxhole history. In Foxhole, nearly every single base you see across the battlefield is built entirely by players. Every structure is the product of countless hours of resource gathering, construction, and strategic planning. Players choose where to build and how to defend, making the world feel alive, reactive, and completely shaped by the players. This video is going to be broken up into two parts. First, we'll explore the base itself, how it was built and what makes it special. Then we'll cover the intense battles that took place there. This massive stronghold was constructed in the region of Westgate, stretching across nearly the entire northern part of the region, and covered all the way from east to west. This base was built over a vast open field. Several Colonial regiments collaborated to bring this base to life, including the 7 HP, 404th, 141CR, along with the coalitions Veli and CRA. Coordination primarily took place through Discord, where players planned, built, and maintained the structure with a singular purpose: to defend Westgate. The lead designer, Saito, said this about how he came up with the design. The idea came from a distant memory of the first base I made, which was a line of bunkers to defend Westgate back in War 108. Sadly, the base didn't last long, but the idea of making a giant wall that couldn't be stopped never banished from my mind. I also had the idea of bringing back the old Colonial Westgate, which used to be a fortress back when facilities didn't exist." End quote. The base certainly served as a defensive wall, stopping invasions from the north via Farinac Coast and preventing enemy landings near the gallows. Just across the northern road, the team laid hundreds of tank mines and traps to delay or halt incoming attacks. The scale of the project was staggering. Over 3 million maintenance supplies were used for this base. Also, 700,000 basic materials and over 40,000 concrete materials were used in its construction. A dedicated team of players maintained this base daily, ensuring it was always operational. Construction began with a focus on the northern side, where the Wardens would most frequently attack. Once the north side was fortified, buildings shifted to the west to guard against naval invasions. After that was complete, the less threatened southern and eastern sides were constructed. But this base was far more than a wall of concrete. It functioned as a self-sustaining hub for anything a player might need. It featured a fully stocked medical center containing crates of shirts, bandages, and other medical equipment for the battlefield. Next, the base also had its own salvage field. A small facility was built around this salvage to help produce the materials the base would need to maintain itself. This salvage field also helped produce various shells for the artillery within the base, which leads me to discuss all of the defense measures that were scattered about the base next. The base housed 3 150mm artillery cannons, always aimed north. A crew was always ready to repel Warden forces when they tried to enter the region. A battle train was also stationed in the rear, with rail lines running throughout the base for rapid deployment. 5 storm cannons were positioned throughout the base, regularly bombing the north and even targeting Victa and Farinac Coast. Rail storm cannons were also stored in the back, capable of moving anywhere within the base on command. Dozens of armored vehicles were stationed all over the base, including a super heavy tank reserved for critical moments during assaults. And the most devastating weapon of all was the nuclear warhead that was launched at Bonehalf during this war. And this is the basic layout for what was inside this massive concrete base. It was not until near the end of War 124, when the Wardens had seized full control of Farinac Coast, that the attacks on the Chambinot Line became relentless. Next, I'm going to cover 3 days of intense assaults that happened on this base. The first major attack came from the north. The Wardens launched a straightforward mainland assault from Farinac Coast. Since this was the first serious threat to the fortress, Colonials across the region rallied immediately. Tanks and infantry poured out of the northern gates, overwhelming the initial Warden advance.
We can punish that. We can punish that. Yeah, let's go. Let's push that shit. You should push that. There's one sat.
Artillery crews quickly got on their guns and began raining shells onto enemy positions, and we eventually pushed the Wardens back across the border into Farinac. The next day, the Wardens switched tactics and launched a 2-pronged naval invasion, one from the west at the gallows, and another one from the south near Holdfast. Fortunately, the Colonials had prepared for this, constructing a smaller concrete fortress near the shoreline of Holdfast. This outpost held the beaches, preventing any Warden infantry from landing. Meanwhile, the storm cannons inside the main base locked onto the approaching frigates and battleships, driving them back into the sea and ending the invasion attempt.
Hey Robert, big fan, bro.
Ah, thank you so much.
Great videos, my friend. Great videos, bro.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you for your content, bro.
Hey, no problem, man.
Oh my god, Robert, I love your videos.
Oh, thank you so much.
You will not survive. You will not survive. You all will die.
And on the third day, 2 days before War 124 ended, the last assault from the Wardens would come. This time, the Wardens came prepared. From across the border in Fernac, they deployed their own railstorm cannons and began bombarding the fortress. As soon as the shells started, Colonials from all over the front responded, manning artillery, hopping into tanks, and preparing for another fight. Unfortunately though, the Warden rail storm cannons were able to punch a hole into part of the north wall. Our tank crews held the Warden armor and infantry advances on the road and out in the northern fields. But slowly, the Wardens started to build up a base of their own, where they could spawn at and continue to flood in. Because this assault was so big from the Wardens, the super heavy tank was brought out to repel them. With a hole still in the wall, some of our tanks were moved over to cover the weak spot until builders could arrive to build it back up. Simple AI defenses were put by the hole to keep any Wardens from sneaking in to take out our artillery guns. We continued to fight the Wardens by the road and out in the fields to keep them away from the base. Throughout the day, Warden storm cannons continued to pound the base, looking for more weak points. While all of this was happening, a Warden invasion was taking place in the capital city of Longstone to the south of us. If they captured it, our logistics chain would be cut off, adding even more urgency to the defense. As night fell, our damaged tanks returned to the base for repairs. As I mentioned before, this base had everything. We had SPGs firing at the Wardens, and even had our own railstorm cannon that came online during the night. Even this little 120mm artillery cannon was doing their part in this battle. Everything was going to be needed to keep the Wardens back. Later that night, bolstered by artillery support, our infantry and tank crews counterattacked. We pushed past the breach, destroyed the Warden forward bunker base, and reached their border base, eventually taking it out. But the Wardens still weren't done. While we focused north, they had constructed another base in the far western corner of the region. This was very close to where the hole in our defense was. The super heavy tank repositioned to defend the breach again. Just as the Warden railstorm cannons resumed their bombardment, they left massive craters within our base, making it harder for our tanks to come and aid us at the breach. Despite it all, our forces rallied once more. Tanks and infantry advanced toward the western Warden base, and after a brutal push, we finally drove them out of Westgate and back into Fernac Coast. As soon as the last Warden was pushed out, we immediately got to work rebuilding the defenses. Our team moved quickly, reconstructing AI defense structures, and reinforcing them with concrete right away. We also spent time clearing out as many artillery craters as possible to allow our logistic trucks easier access for resupplying the bunkers. In the video, you can clearly see the contrast. One side of the base is still lush and green, untouched by war, while the other side is a scarred, cratered wasteland. After several hours of rebuilding, we thought we were in the clear, but the Wardens weren't finished. They launched yet another assault, this time relying mostly on infantry armed with RPGs. Despite all our efforts, they managed to breach and devastate the concrete base once again. Unfortunately, most of our players had logged off following the earlier battle, leaving too few defenders to stop the flood of Warden forces. We held the best that we could, but the numbers were against us. And in the end, the Chambinot Line, the once great fortress, was brought to ruin. Although the base ultimately fell, the region Westgate held strong throughout War 124. And was never captured by the Wardens. I believe much of that resilience can be credited to the Colonial regiments that built this incredible fortress. Thank you so much to Saito for leading the design and everyone that made it happen. Thank you also to Killjard for keeping me updated when the base was being attacked. I had a lot of fun defending it against the Wardens, and I hope to see another base like this in the future. If you have a unique or mega base that you are building and want it featured in a video, feel free to DM me on Discord. I would love to cover and talk about more bases like this. Thank you all so much for watching and for your support. Make sure to subscribe for more Foxhole content. I'll see you out on the battlefield. Cheers.